Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm thrilled to welcome back Olympian, Dancing with the Stars champion, and my mother's favorite skater, Adam Rippon. Welcome back to the skating lesson.
You know, it's been a minute, hasn't it been?
It has. You've had a little bit going on. I mean, you know, how has your book tour been going? I read this. This was impressive. So
I'm so glad that you read it.
Yes, I read it like word for word. So we have a lot of questions. I did some research when I was in Vegas. So have you been watching any of the skating?
Okay, so I'm going to be honest. Since I've retired, a lot of the time I will get most of my skating intel from the skating lesson now.
This is amazing. This is, if you could say that again, that would be great. But
yeah, let me say it into the mic. Most of my intel, yeah.
So I've heard that you're a fan of Alena Kostornaia.
Okay, here's the thing. I would throw myself in front of a bus for her. I haven't been this invested in Russian people since Nancy Pelosi announced that she was going to pursue impeachment.
Okay. You're what is it about her that has won your heart over?
Okay. So the skating I've seen online and it's been incredibly impressive. And then I was at Finlandia Trophy and I saw her skate her short program, and I don't think I've been this moved by a skater in a very long time. It's the skating quality is there, the performance level is so high, and then on top of that, the technique is just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Are you into the double axel, into the jump that she's doing?
Okay. She could do anything. She could literally do anything, and I would be bald. She's by far one of the best skaters I've ever seen in my entire life.
Okay. So Nathan obviously won Skate America. You trained with him forever. Have you been following him? Did you watch any Skate America this weekend?
Okay, I've been watching clips and stuff. And I think I love Nathan's program this year because I think it's in a way a risk, because he's trying a style that he's never done before, and I think that it's really cool. Mm-hmm. I'm into it. The choreographed step sequence is phenomenal. I mean, we're big Nathan Chen fans in this house. Yeah.
Okay. So, are you a big Eteri fan? Because since you've left skating, she has completely taken over. So, what is your take on her? The lack of facial expressions, what is happening?
See, I get it. As someone who has now since retired and gotten Botox myself, mm-hmm. I understand the lack of facial expressions, and I'm here for it. I also think that if I ever had a daughter or a son, I would send them immediately to Moscow to train with Eteri.
Okay. Now, you originally were not the biggest Eteri fan because, I don't know if you remember this, but 2014 Olympics, you and Mariah were drinking, and I got a text from you very upset about the scoring of Yulia Lipnitskaya, and that you were a little upset about this. So how did you get on the Eteri train?
I think what I saw was that, I think I appreciated what Yulia Lipnitskaya was doing, but I felt in comparison to somebody like Yuna Kim, or some of the other skaters, I even thought Gracie was, a little underscored in Sochi as well in the team event. Mm-hmm. That for me, I was I felt like Gracie and Yulia were sort of more neck and neck than the points showed. I think why I'm a big Eteri fan now is, one, personally, I always loved Eteri. When I was competing, Eteri and I were sort of secret friends. Mm-hmm. And now, watching everyone, I think that she's sort of revolutionizing and changing everything up. Mm-hmm. We're over here, we're let's try to get our edges on the outside edge, and let's do our best, and maybe some clean triples would be great on the Junior Grand Prix. And she's you are all dumb. All of my girls have 5 quads.
Yeah. So they have 5 quads, but they also have costume changes. So how are you feeling about the
Wait, I'm so excited to talk about this. So I was not into this. What is her name?
Anna Shcherbakova?
Yes. Okay. I was not into her at first because I watched her and I felt like she was stiff, very cute, super cute girl. Can you tell, like, I love skating. It's so nice to talk. Nobody knows anything about skating. Like, everywhere I go, I'm like, do you know skating? They're like, no. I'm like, okay. This girl at Skate America, wasn't a huge fan at first because she's pretty stiff. But in the long program, I could tell that she was mad because I didn't see the short, but I was like, I didn't know where she was. The long program, I felt like she was on a mission. She landed her quad lutzes, which, I mean, those were a lot for me to handle, that like, a child could do what I tried so many times to do in competition. So she goes out, she does that. But for me, it was sort of, she was really trying her best to like perform the hell out of whatever she was doing. And the little like unbuttoned drop down, I was impressed. Usually costume changes look like heavy tops that like fall down into like, you knew it was coming. And I knew she was going to costume change because I saw some video from her Italian senior B. But I was impressed with how she handled that and then did like this technical content afterward, which like would have had me at Cedar Sinai.
She came to slay. Now, you were going to have a senior B moment because you choreographed Mariah Bell's short program and everyone was ready for her to skate to Work Bitch at Nebelhorn. And the feed went down moments before her big moment, Adam. So walk us through the program. What was the inspiration? How is Mariah Bell going to do this season?
So I guess that, God works in mysterious ways. He cancels the feed. He gives Mariah more time to just work into this program. And I've had the chance to work with Mariah a lot this season. And the one thing I think that, like, I see myself in Mariah, I see a lot of parallels where there's a lot of younger skaters that are doing things that Mariah isn't trying in her program. Mariah's not going to try 2 quad lutzes or 2 triple axels. So I think that, like, as someone who's working with Mariah, I encouraged her to try to do something different that is going to stand out. That's not something that you would see at a skating competition, especially in the ladies event where it's so, you know me. I love a good Rachmaninoff number, like his second piano concerto. Any variation.
You used to listen to it every day. Yeah. There was an article about you. Yeah.
Yeah, I would listen to it every day. And so I wanted and thought Mariah should take a risk, especially this far out from the Olympics, because if it's something that she doesn't end up liking or a style that she's not comfortable with, it's for her to try it now, and then she can go back to something, or she can try something different. But I think she's doing well, and I think that she's going to surprise a few people with it, because I think it's one of those things where it's like, in the ladies, they love these, like, the Secret Garden, whomever played the piano once, they're like, put it in a skating competition. So I think it's exciting when people use other music. So that's why I encouraged Mariah to use something like different.
So last season, she had a bit of a scandal at the World Championships, which I think a lot of people thought was one of the most laughable things, that Mariah Bell was being compared to Tonya Harding on TMZ.
Right.
But how did you talk to her after that, get her out of the despair of, the avalanche of hate she was getting? We don't have Ice Network anymore to...
I know.
The articles.
We only have NBC Gold.
Yeah. We don't have Lynn Rutherford writing to know how Mariah Bell is dealing. So how is she doing?
I know from Mariah's perspective, because I called her while it was happening just to make sure that she was okay, because all of a sudden, the people that I work with at, Good Morning America were calling me, and they're like, can we talk about, this new Tonya Harding scandal? I'm like, what's happening? And then I have to, find out everything. And one, my take on it is so I'm going to talk to you peer to peer. Okay. My take on it is that if you are training with someone every single day, you know the ins and outs of their program, even if you don't want to. Mm-hmm. You know where they're going. You know what's going to happen. And if you aren't watching out on a practice, that's also sort of a no-no. So I didn't really feel like Mariah was the one at fault in this sort of situation, and I think it did get blown out of proportion. So I know for Mariah, it was a huge thing because all of a sudden she needs to get escorted to the competition with like security because it's a situation that is, you know, getting a lot of attention, and a lot of people are watching this, you know, the warm up before the last warm up at a World Championships with the intensity of like the final three. And it was a lot, but you know, at the end of the day, I mean, Mariah still skates in California.
Yeah. So you do work with her, and you picked Work Bitch. So the USFS is a little bit conservative. So how did it go over? What were the discussions like?
I think that the discussions were normal. That they, you know, at Champs Camp, the feedback that she got was pretty on par for like, if you try something new and daring, that you're rewarded for trying something daring, but there is this fear that you won't be able to pull it off. And especially for Mariah, like, you know, it's hard to go from like Celine Dion, which is very like, the skating world would embrace anything Celine Dion, to go to something like Britney, where it feels like a huge risk. And I think Mariah feels that, and it's something Mariah's never done before. So I think it's really important for her to kind of work into it. That being said, we took all the bitches out of the music because, you know, we're not trying to get any, like, no deductions here.
Okay.
You know, like, no, please.
No, you had a pretty good Olympic moment, but I was a little bit disappointed that season because you were going to skate to your own vocals of a cover of Rihanna, which would have really been the star of every show. Now, like, why did this not happen? Like, what?
Okay, let me give you the rundown. So I was practicing with my you know, like me, my like own version of a song. And Raphael basically told me that he liked this club version of like the Ida Core song better. Because it was more like upbeat, and it was such a contrast to like my free skate. One, I freaking loved my like little like my American Idol moment. Who is on this show with you? Jonathan?
Jonathan, yeah.
Yes, and he wasn't a fan. He was saying that like I had like some like auto-tune mic, which I freaking wish I had an auto-tune mic. I know I'm not Mariah Carey, but I could have used a little like help me up, get me up to a note. But for me, you know, at a competition, it was a great distraction because I hated skating in the exhibitions. So it was a great thing to be like, oh, I'll just sing in them.
Deanna has compared it. You know. Deanna Stellato's compared the exhibition to a pie eating contest where the reward is more pie. So
truly, yeah.
Now that season, there was so much about.
I'm dead for Deanna Stellato. Yeah.
Yes, she's a big fan. You know, Now she thinks that you're the only person that understood the selection criteria that season. So you like knew that you were going. Yes. So how did no one else know? I mean, I feel like I followed gymnastics. Once you made the Grand Prix final, like it was done. You were going to the Olympics. Like you did a good short program. It was over. You know. Well,
here's the thing that like I studied the selection criteria because let me tell you, when you move to Colorado Springs with a broken foot, you don't have much to do. So you're like, let me study up on what I need to do to make sure that I'm going to go to the Olympics. And I studied up. I figured out what I needed to do. I read every single guideline. And every time anyone from, you know, U.S. figure skating would be like, oh, you're skating really well. This is going really well. And I would every single time be like, yeah, this is exactly what the criteria says to do. Like, this is exactly what I should be doing. And isn't it cool that I'm following the criteria? And I felt like I just was in a headspace of, you know, like blinders on, focus, get there, do whatever. You know, it didn't matter if I was at a Skate America and someone told me, blew the whistle and was like, pick up these bugs. I was like, not going to miss out on anything. And so when I got to nationals, after I made it through the short program, I think I had this like lapse for the first time in like 2 years. And I made it through all the hard things. And I say I made it through the hard things. Like, I fell on my ass in a quad lutz. But then I, like, picked it up, and I was like, scrappy guy, make it through. And I had these, like, 2, pops at the end of a free skate. And I had this moment where I was like, you know what? If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. The ice is slippery. There's nothing I can do about it. But at the end of the competition, I saw the results and I saw where everyone was stacking up. And at the end of that night, I felt pretty confident that, like, my criteria was, like, way more than enough to be on the team. I was still sweating it out because, we haven't had that criteria before. In years past, like when I, first started skating, it was like nationals was the moment. You needed to have your moment. If you didn't have your moment, it wasn't there. And it wasn't that way in 2014, and it wasn't that way in 2018. And I knew that. So I was confident that I would be assigned to the team, but I was still, like, sweating and thought I was going to shit myself to death. Can I say that on the skating lesson?
Yeah, you can. Okay. What is it about you and Ashley and the Olympic trials? Like, walk us through it, because people used to joke that you were on the same cycle, because you would both, like, really kill it at 2015 and 2016. You both hate an even year nationals. Like, was it from living together? Like, what is happening here? You both love a dramatic way of getting on the Olympic team. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. We both do love that drama of getting added to the Olympic team. What I think it is that I think the biggest drama is that I placed 4th. I think in years past, I had my, like, lapse of judgment of being like, 2 singles would be a good idea. But I think the biggest thing is that, like, if you look back, people who haven't had, like, a great nationals, because 6 weeks before is a really tough spot to be. If you're at your very best 6 weeks out, that's a really hard level to maintain for another 6 weeks, to then not only recreate a moment, because nationals, you need a moment. Nationals is not like, it's not like going to, like, Santa Claus Cup in Croatia, where, your mom and, like, all the doctors are in the audience. It's like everyone's there. It's, NBC is fully there, fully invested. You know what's happening. You need a moment. And a moment takes an enormous amount of energy. And I think if you look back, you even look back at, like, Michelle Kwan, Tara Lipinski. Tara Lipinski for her sake, had a rough nationals in 98. And Michelle Kwan had this unbelievable moment where, like, those are some of the best, like, classic skating performances you could ever watch. And she skates incredibly well at the Olympics, but Tara Lipinski has a moment at the Olympics. She has a moment where it's like, that's undeniably, like, the performance of the night. Sarah Hughes. First of all, I'm not saying I'm Sarah Hughes or Tara Lipinski, like, for the record. But, like, you look and there were these moments where it wasn't all together yet, and it all came together at the Olympics, because not only is the Olympics is a weird competition, it's also you're throwing your body off of this rhythm of when you should peak. You're so used to, like, the end of January, the end of March, and then all of a sudden it's the beginning of January and the middle of February. So it's this weird, like, vibration you need to kick yourself into. So I think for some athletes, you do see that, like, they have this, like, weird fluky performance, and then they can go to the Olympics and put it all together. But I think, obviously, I'm in favor of the criteria because it worked out in my favor. But I do think that the criteria is helpful because nationals is not always a representation of who you are or what you can bring to the Olympic Games.
And they judge nationals a little funky sometimes. So
yes, yeah.
I do want to ask about going to the Olympics. I remember you were posting yourself running every night. How did the motivation change? Because you're like 110 in skating years. You finally make it to the Olympics. Like, we all couldn't believe it. It finally happened.
Me included. Yeah.
So, like, did you feel like, was your mojo gone? Or, like, how did you keep yourself up for, like, making this Olympic moment? Because you really manifested this. I listened to Ross Matthews. You invited yourself on the show. Like, what were you doing?
It's like manifest destiny.
Yeah.
I think, the one thing was that for me, the biggest like life-changing moment was getting second at nationals in 2015. Mm-hmm. And not only was it life-changing because I skated well, and it was like, oh, like you're not fat anymore, like you did it. And it was life-changing because I showed up, I skated so well. I, got the record in the free skate at the moment until everybody started doing like harder and clean things. And then all of a sudden, Jason Brown skates last and he wins. So I'm like, even in like my biggest moment, for 1 second, I'm like, okay, it's not enough. Mm-hmm. But then in the same flip side of that, I was like, just remember where you were. You were at the TD Garden crying with your sad curly hair with highlights, wishing to go to the Olympics. And now you feel so good and you're so proud of like what you did. Because I remember thinking like 2015, maybe this is going to be the last competition I ever do. Maybe I'll never do a competition and I'm just going to end on a high note. I'm going to end knowing that like I gave 100% into this event. And I did. And the payoff was like those skates that I'll always look back at and be like, I was ready. I was ready for that moment. I was there. And then not winning threw me into this point of like gratitude, because seeing someone like Jason, I felt like, I know Jason. He's worked really hard for this. I skate every day trying to spin as fast as Jason does. Mm-hmm. I'll never be able to do a full split. The only way I'll ever be able to like hide doing a full split is I have baggy sweatpants. And I'm like, look, I'm on the ground. I know that's not going to happen. So he's really earned this moment. And he was at the Olympics. And that's a lot of pressure to go from being like a surprise Olympian and then stepping into being a national champion. So he deserves this moment. And then I thought, like, I also deserve this moment. So me being happy for Jason doesn't take anything away from me. And I went in with that mindset into like every competition that I just needed to do my best and I would feel really good. Mm-hmm. And so I did that for the next few seasons. And there were some like lapses in that, especially like being at a Grand Prix final, which was really exciting to be a part of because I had never been to a Grand Prix final. And here I was at like 26 or 27, like going to Grand Prix finals. But when you're at a World Championships, it's easy to be like, well, I know I'm going to beat that person. Like, but when you're at a Grand Prix final, I felt like, I was like the opening act to whomever was skating next. It was like, here's our, the fan favorite. And it's like, I was going to go like this for 3 minutes, and then everyone else was going to have the real competition. So the Grand Prix finals were harder for me because there wasn't this like, I didn't feel like I was even competitive. I knew if I like, looking back, if I just kept my cool and did what I was doing, I would have, could have been a bigger threat to people who were making mistakes. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have that mindset. But I always checked back into it, and I think one of the things I'll always be grateful for is breaking my foot, because it gave me this break that I felt like I needed. And I also was able to kind of check into that Olympic mindset months earlier than everybody else was. Mm-hmm. I was thinking Olympic season on like November 7th, or sorry, January 7th, November 7th. That's like a little late. January 7th, like the day after I broke my foot, I was like, I had a plan of what I was going to do, of how I was going to get to the Olympics. And it also, because I was older, felt like a challenge. Like, let's see how much I can come back. Let's see how much I can improve. And we'll take it from there, because I already had this like clear vision that like as a human being, I would be okay if I was never an Olympian.
So you knew that you were born to be famous, as you said in your book. Now, you know that Christine Brennan loves an Ashley Wagner quote. Ashley is her quote, her go-to girl for any quote, especially after the anti-gay propaganda law in Russia. But Ashley didn't make the Olympics, and you were then the go-to quote. When you found out that Christine wanted to talk to you, like, did you just like know it was happening in that moment, that like everything was about to change? Before we had this conversation with between me and Christine, I also knew that like at this point that I was getting a lot of like media attention before I had even gone, because I think that it is
sort of an anomaly for an athlete to say things that are more colorful and sort of off track for being an Olympian. To basically say anything that's not, I'm feeling prepared and I'm ready. So to say anything sort of outside of those, that perimeter is seen as like, what's going on? But I was also saying it all very genuinely because it was how I was like acting behind the scenes and how I was interacting with other reporters on like more of like a skating world level anyway. So before I gave this interview to Christine, she said, I just want you to know before you say anything, before we start this interview, that like what you say now will be amplified because you're an Olympian now. And I knew that. And she starts with like easy questions like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, the bet, like so thin, like very good. And then we go and she asks me a few more. And then she says that like, you know, Mike Pence was the named the head of the athlete delegation for the team. What do you think? And I knew that like in that moment I had like a choice. I could like not say anything, or I could have a conversation with her like I would anyone I knew, like sitting on my couch or at dinner. And I answered it honestly and, you know, the same way I would have if someone was just chatting with me. And then without intention, it like escalated to like this bigger deal than I thought it would ever.
Yeah, I remember being at work during the Olympics, and it was like, you know skating. Do you know Adam Rippon? It became like the question. You were the situation. I was like, yeah, I knew when he had curly hair. Like, no one knew that was a thing. But
they were like, she had curly hair.
Yeah. So, I guess your actual Olympic moment, you finally make it. You're skating there. Was it enjoyable? Did you feel like you wanted to throw up? Like, what was the actual feeling compared to other competitions?
You know, I think that what prepared me was getting to talk with so many other skaters and my friends who have gone and who had been successful. And specifically, I had this conversation with like Meryl Davis like 2 years before the games. And she told me, and if you look like on paper, like Meryl goes to the Olympics, she wins, she gets her team medal, she has every color of medal. She goes, she does Dancing with the Stars, she wins. Like, it's this whole big thing where like nothing could have gone better. And she talked to me and a bunch of other skaters. We were all on Stars on Ice at the time. And she shares that like, you know, coming off of all of that was really difficult. Like it was hard because, you know, she didn't want to compete anymore. And then all of a sudden it was like there was nothing for her to get ready for. Or there was no, like, she wasn't looking 4 years ahead to like what the next games was. There was no looking for the music. Like all of these things that we as skaters and athletes take for granted. It's just, you know, it's the day after the long program and everyone has Shayla Bourne on speed dial. Like it's that's what happens. That's what you do. And I listened to her, and what she said and what she was describing was basically the same feelings I was feeling after not making the team. And I, for a moment, was like, how does someone like Meryl Davis feel the exact same that's me, you know, heavy in Boston, was feeling as like Meryl Davis, Olympic champion. And in that moment, I sort of realized that, you know, the Olympics is just this thing, but like we as people stay the same, and we take what we get from this experience, and that's it. It's gone, and it happens in a flash. And when you go to the Olympics, it's sort of like unlike any other competition you've gone to, and in the sense that it's truly just a show. It's a television show that every event is made so that it can be live in New York, and that's the main focus. It doesn't matter what condition the mountain is in. It doesn't matter if the snow is bad. It doesn't matter what time it is. That you're going to compete, that's it. This is your Olympic moment, and you're going to have it. And, you know, you look at the schedule, and it's like the team event, the men are skating at 10 a.m., and you have a practice at, you know, 5:50 in the morning. And then you think, like, I have to be at my very best at 5:50 in the morning. And you have this moment where you're like, of course, because at 10 o'clock in the morning in Korea, it's prime time in the US. So this is a show. And getting to talk with like the mountain athletes, it's like if the conditions aren't good, the competition just gets canceled and they do this Worlds at another event. Like it just moves. They don't do it when the conditions are bad. But at the Olympics, it's like everything has to get done. Like, did the snow turn to ice? They're like, oh, good luck. Like it's going to be rough down there. And I think that's what fosters these Olympic moments. I think that's what fosters these crazy performances. I think people who are in the mindset that like, I'm better than everybody, I'm going to win anyway, they win because they know it. They know in their heart that they're better, that they're just a step above. Like Yuzuru. Yuzuru goes out. He's been, a little inconsistent the whole season. He knows, we all know, we can just see it. Yuzuru is better than everybody. He goes out, he skates better than anybody. It doesn't matter. It could have been 4 o'clock in the morning. It could have been 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I also think that the people in the middle, that's where it starts to go crazy. And then there's these outliers who are just there to have a moment, just there to like be their best. And I kind of fell into that category. And I knew that like I needed to be really good. And I knew that when the team event was happening, I needed to really show up and skate well. So you go out there, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. When you go to nationals and you go to Worlds, the arena's full. Like it's a full packed arena. You go to the Olympics, half of the arena is completely full to the rafters. And the other half is empty. The other half is the judges, and every, like where there should be people is, where there should be like 5 to 6 people is a desk. And there's 1 million desks, and it's for every single media outlet. So in a sense, it feels like almost one of the most quiet arenas you've ever competed in. It feels like every arena you've ever competed in. There's nothing special to it. It's just like every other competition you've ever done. But as I remember specifically feeling with all of the media that was going on around me, it was the first time I didn't feel like I was skating for myself. It was the first time I felt like people who had no idea who I was or anything or figure skating, that they were interested in like, what was I going to perform like? And I knew that was really important. And it was a surreal moment, but I also felt like the most prepared for it, like for any competition in my life.
Now, like Meryl Davis, you go off to Dancing with the Stars. You compete for the mirror ball. The stress must be through the roof. But you also were on there with Tanya.
Through the roof, yeah. Yes, yeah. I was, yeah.
Now, I don't know if, like, Mariah has watched all of Tanya's performances, but I feel like you more likely were more well-versed in Tanya. So,
you know me. Yeah. I love a good, like, Batman opening to a triple axel, yeah.
So, like, what is the... I mean, obviously your life is feeling pretty surreal, but you find out you're going to be on Dancing with the Stars with Tanya. You get to meet her. She's doing some number where she's in a trailer. I mean, like, what is the level of interacting with Tanya like during this?
Well, like, she's in a trailer. It's like sometimes like, reality, or what is the saying, like, life imitates art. Yeah. It was a lot like that. It's surreal. Like in skating, you would know Tanya Harding is the boogeyman. We don't talk about her. She's not invited to anything. And, my impression was like, I don't really know. Like, I think that she should be involved, like, in the show? I don't really know, but I do know that she, like, she tried to hurt somebody. Like, we can watch the movie 1 million times, but like, we know kind of what happened. Like, you knew. But she was really nice to me. And my impression was that she just, was still like a little girl. She was in this and she was like a little girl, and she was having these moments. And I think truly she surrounded herself with really awful people. And she thought that she was doing the right things, and she was not doing the right things. And do I think that she's like guilty? Like, yes, I do. I do think that she's guilty. And I know that I said that and that I still believe that, but I think it was really nice because I think that she suffered like the consequences. And so she had these moments, and she was, my interactions with her were really limited because I was on Stars on Ice at the same time. So like I'd see her on the days that we taped. But she was, I think, just like so over the moon to feel like included in something for the first time in a really long time. And my personal impression of the whole thing was that like, I think this is really good for her child, that like that her child will now basically be able to kind of move forward, and people will have a better impression of of their mother. So I was like happy in that sense.
Yeah. Now, you also met Reese Witherspoon. Now, she has a lot of shows coming out, and Reese loves you. Can you manifest, like, a spot on the morning show that's going to come out with her and Jennifer Aniston? Like, I would like to see you as maybe a production assistant in this show. Like, what could we see? We saw you on Will and Grace. Like, how's Reese
which
doing?
was like just as short as like an Instagram story. They're like, you're gonna go on, here's your like 2 lines, and I was like, work. I'll put it on my IMDb. Like that's excellent for me. So we're manifesting everything that we can at this moment. We're very powerful. All of our crystals are charged, and you know what? I'll get on the phone with her as soon as
Do you have a SAG card now?
I'm a SAG member. Yes.
You're a SAG member. Do you get to vote like for the Emmys, or how does this all work?
I don't know how it works. I just know that I'm a member. Like I know that every time I have to fill out like paperwork, they're like, "Are you SAG?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." Okay. But that's all I know, that I am SAG. So I don't vote for anything.
So you run in some elite gay circles now. I was looking at your Instagram the other day. You and Brad Goreski were like loving each other's new show announcements. You were in the Taylor Swift video with the guys from Queer Eye. So like, what kind of
gay elites?
What kind of gay elite circles are you in? Like, are you making guacamole with Greek yogurt with Anthony? Like, what is happening here?
I think that like, I think I've been thrown into like a lot of like things where we all meet. So I meet everyone, and for the most part, everyone, and when I say that for the most part, everyone I've met has been really nice, and they've all been really nice to me. And I can tell you that like my big elite gay circle is pretty much the same as it always was. Like I'm here, I live where I've lived for like 7 years because it makes me feel comfortable, and it's like, with everything that's so, like, I don't live in Hollywood. I live, like, in the South Bay near the beaches because I don't want to deal with, like, the craziness or, like, any of that. I also feel like people in Hollywood, they're big hustler. I'm a hustler. I'm a hustler. We know each other. And I don't want to like get mixed up in like that group and stuff. I want to like focus on my things, and I want to focus on like what I'm doing and do it really well. So like I stay in my like at the beach.
Are you still talking to Doug Rosano all the time? Like the most important gay member of the mafia. Okay.
Are you kidding?
Yes.
He's the top of the pyramid for me. We've been best friends for like 15 years.
Yeah. Well, you did go to the other gay Olympics when you got to go on The View, and you got to meet Whoopi, Joy, and Meghan McCain at the same time. So, like, walk us through, like, what did you and Joy Behar talk about,
So, Joy, was Joy on the show when I did it?
She was there. It was Deborah Roberts. I just checked this. It was Deborah Roberts, Whoopi.
Yeah. So, Whoopi, I'll tell you about Whoopi. Whoopi, she's, like, invited me. First, God love Whoopi Goldberg. She asks me, are you excited for the next Olympics? First of all, it's like a few months out, like from the last one. And I turned to her and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to go. Like, I'm not going to that. Like, unless you want to go together, I'm not going. She goes, I really think that you should reconsider. I think that you could really win gold next time. And I mean, you're laughing? I think I was laughing. I was like, I think you might be mistaken, but I appreciate your optimism. And so she was super kind. We go to her dressing room. She has like 1,000 pair of shoes in her dressing room, like literally 1,000 pairs. She was really nice. I was worried going on that Meghan McCain was going to say something because she did speak up about what I thought of meeting Mike Pence and that I didn't meet him, and she thought that was a mistake. But, for a few things, I don't think she's on the right side of history. So I think this might be one of them. Yeah,
So was Joy also memorable or not?
She was great. To be honest, I didn't even remember she was there. Don't tell her.
That's okay. That's all right.
But she was nice. They were all like kind. I went on there. I gave my like story. And then I left, and Whoopi was like, look at my shoes and you should go to the Olympics. So that's what I remember the most.
Okay. Now, the ESPN Body Issue.
Yes.
How does one prepare? Is it like a colonoscopy where you're doing like
here's the thing. I thought, yes. I thought it's like, whatever's inside, it's got to come out. Unless it's like vital, it stays in. And I think after the games, I wasn't asked until like immediately right after, because I think they were like, we need the big mouth. And so I was like, here she is. Here I am. I'm ready. And I was thinking that it was going to be like months out, like 3 months later. So I went into my trainer and I was like, we have 3 months and I need to look, really hot. Like I need to get it together. And he's like, okay, we can do that. And then I start asking like, when is the shoot date? And they're like, oh, it's next week. I had already indulged in McDonald's in the Village. It was too late for me at that point. Like whatever I had was just residual from what I had trained for. So in that moment, I'm like, we're not eating anymore, and we're just gonna have dandelion tea, which I heard was like really helped to like remove the liquid from your body. So I was just having dandelion tea. So it was a real throwback to 2015 for me. And I go, and I don't know what to expect, but I do know that like I want to have nice pictures. So any hesitation you feel of having like your penis flapping in the breeze, you just get rid of it right away. And within like 10 minutes, you shoot pictures and you become really comfortable with everyone around you. And your main focus is like creating these like really beautiful photos. I will say on the flip side of that, there are photos that I thought were just like, I nailed it. And they won't Photoshop anything. Like they'll clean up your skin and stuff. But if you have like a private part out, like they won't just cut it out. Like it needs to be like the way it happened in nature. And I had a few where I was like, I knew like in my mind I was gorgeous and beautiful, but I was facing the wrong way. So I'm like facing like this, and it's just like dick out, flapping in the breeze, full forward, like this. So I have a bunch of those. But it's a liberating experience, and now, you do your best.
You had a man at the time, but is there one particular one that would have been your Grindr photo had you, been single at the time?
Oh, probably the one that was like one of the covers they used. That would have been the one. I think that would have been one? Not the layback one, the one where I was like stopping and I had that like muscle on my hip that I didn't know that I had. It looks like 2 tennis balls.
Okay. Now
I felt like that would have been my like selling point,
So like Kelly, the proud tiger mother that she is, does she like display these photos in the house? Like what?
No, I actually have. So they sent me like a book, and it's basically like throughout the day these like candid shots and some of the shots that they use in the magazine, and I still have it like here. Never gave it to her. Okay. So, yeah, which is a shame. She really should put my ass up in our house.
Speaking of your ass, people have debated if it was real. Like a good Kardashian.
Yes.
Did you also manifest this to happen? Like what?
I didn't. This wasn't the attention that I wanted. I guess it's just the what, it's what my audience attracted.
Okay. Were you nervous that it would go down when you stopped skating?
Yeah, I'm still nervous. Like, okay. Can't you read it on my face? I'm still like terrified it will go down at any moment.
Okay. So you got to judge the junior edition of Dancing with the Stars, very prestigious competition. Palin.
It's like the Olympics of, it's like, yes, you're right, it's prestigious. Continue.
Trip Palin, Honey Boo Boo. But like, you were a ringer on Dancing with the Stars. Allegedly, you might have had an advantage. I know skating and what is the line? It's very different. How would Meryl say it? Like, skating.
It truly is. Wait. I'm gonna tell you. I know you're like. Not
I watched
you're
Christy
like,
Yamaguchi do this.
Different. Like you're like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and you do not have the same. Yeah, that's true because he needed like 2 girls sitting on top of each other for him to like be at like shoulder length, but. As a skater, I truly went in thinking I was going to just nail it. And like as a single skater, you can be on the music, but I could hit any note I want and be on the music, because most of the people I skate with don't even hear that the music is playing. So at least I knew to go, hold my fingers up and like move a shoulder or something, or do like a head whip. But then when you dance with someone, especially like when you're the man or the lead, you have to lead and move. And there's this huge like pull that I was not doing. And it was a lot harder than I thought. I think that my advantage was wearing a costume and not being intimidated by like having nips out,
Well, how did you let Mac Z lose the competition? I mean, the great singer, the great Dance Mom star, how did the ringer lose when you judged the competition?
Wait,
what would Abby Lee, like Abby Lee's girl? She was the runner-up.
Okay.
Come on, Adam. This is...
Okay. First of all, yes, she was a fantastic dancer. She is a very good dancer. I think the biggest setback that she had was that she was a dancer going into this. So, like Miles Brown from Blackish, he wasn't a dancer, and he really brought it. So it was really hard because, like, as a judge, we had to judge them based on like where we thought they could go, and to keep it on sort of a level playing field. It's dance. Like, how much do you think that specific person is pushing themselves? Are they like an awful dancer? Maybe, but are they performing? Well, that's the most important thing. If it's a television show, they need to be performing and out there. So like, were there moments where like Honey Boo Boo was just walking around like she was at the Viewmont Mall? Yeah, there were. Like, she looked like she was looking for a car in the parking lot, but she was performing the hell out of whatever she was doing. And that's, the kind of message that we sent to the kids, and that's what was the most important. And so we judged it based on the performance we felt like they gave specifically to their own like skill level. Well, is that fair?
That's fair. It's fair. It's not right, but it's okay. All right.
Yeah. So it's not right, but it happened.
I mean, Sean Spicer is still on the show allegedly in the current season.
I mean, can we not talk about that?
He may be a fellow Mirrorball Trophy winner. If
he could be,
if America
anything
is
is
not
possible
careful.
in Trump's America. Anything.
Well, I read that you splurged on Gucci sneakers recently. And if there's one thing I know about Hackensack, it is that when Nikolai is apparently not covered in vomit, it is that he is dripping in Gucci. So you can take a girl out of Hackensack.
I wouldn't say dripping. He has an item, dripping and has an item are two different levels of owning Gucci.
At least in cologne, dripping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sopping, I think you meant to say.
Yes.
Yeah, you can take the girl out of New Jersey, but you can't take the Jersey out of the girl.
Yeah.
For sure.
You are a perfect resident, I think, of New Jersey.
Truly. Not of New Jersey, of Hackensack, New Jersey.
So, when you found out that Nikolai had a 15-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old wife, like, what was your surprised face reaction to this?
None.
Okay.
What was yours? Wasn't yours like, this seems about right?
Yes.
Yeah, that felt normal to me.
That would have been the greatest reality show. It's all skating needed to get it to the top. It
was fascinating. Like, things that I saw, I truly felt like people only wrote about. Mm-hmm. I thought that was like the behavior of certain individuals was like all the extracurricular was just like stuff that like, oh, you only wrote about doing that. Like, that doesn't actually happen. And then I saw it with my own eyes, like me coming from like Scranton, Pennsylvania with, it's just, me and Kelly Rippon, trudging on with this Olympic dream. And then all of a sudden it's like, bong, 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 like your eyes pop out of your sockets and you're like, what's happening? So, yeah. So then when I found that out, I was like, yes, aren't they? They're not even together anymore, are they?
No, he's with Stolbova. So he's moved on. It seemed genuine. But,
what?
Yes.
Beetlejuice?
Yes. It's all good. Yes. She's skating pairs. He's coaching her. You know how this works. So.
Yeah, okay.
Now.
I was not expecting, I'm really like thrown off. Like, equilibrium is like gone. Yeah, okay. Go on.
So I talked to one of your former training mates, and she said that there was a very specific diet at one point while you were there. Yeah. When you weren't at the salad bar, it was dark chocolate, raw cashews, and coffee. And she wanted to know if you ever partook in this diet.
So that is this Jane?
This is Jane. Ron? Yes.
Yeah. Growing up, one of my dear friends, shout out to Jane Ron, representing representing China, Jane Ron. Dear friends. Yes, it was an epidemic. Yeah. In 2007, the hottest diet around was hot chocolate, cashews from the farmer's market, and coffee. I never partook in that diet. No, my fault. When I did get older, though, like, I found my own diet, and my own diet was like a piece of like bread filled with nuts and yogurt. So it's like we all find our way eventually.
Okay. She said that one skater actually burned his esophagus from having too much coffee, had to go to the hospital, but lost 10 pounds, so he felt it was effective at the time.
It's so, when you're, I'm going to tell you, like, not being involved in like skating for like a year and a half, I hear that, and I have these two like people sitting on my shoulders. The one is like the one that's training, and they're like, it happens. And the one over here is like, what are you talking about? And it's so crazy what you reason to yourself. You're like, oh, they burned their esophagus. You're like, should have had more water, I guess.
Now, you went from Nikolai to Brian Orser. Brian Orser trained Yuna, trained Hanyu. He didn't even make it into your book. That...
It's not shade. It's not shade.
Okay. Now, would you say that, like Nikolai, he's someone that you go to for finishing? Like,
I would say that Brian Orser is probably one of the very best, like Raphael, finishing coaches in the world. You also have very like incredible up and coming skaters, but I think that there's no it doesn't happen by accident that you have multiple champions in the end of their career. You look at Frank Carroll, like he's had a lot of skaters come up with him, but he also has like helped just give someone that final like push that like one of the very best, like, if you need like a home and you need a training base where everything is right there, go to someone like Brian Orser. He's like, I mean, I think the best example is not even like Hanyu. I think the best example is someone like Javi, where like he needed a home, he needed stability, he needed a choreographer, he needed like stable training. He got it, and he went from being like this person that you wouldn't even think would be on a podium at a senior B to like 8s, 9s, 10s components, deservedly so, because he was just in the right place. He was in a training center where somebody was giving him all the tools. Like that's where you go for Brian Orser. He's the person who he can give you that push.
Well, speaking of Javi, Jane said that nothing pissed you off more than being in Andorra, and Javi is showing up late to the rink with a soccer ball and a cigarette. And you are trying to get your triple axel for hours. And he gets on the ice like 15, 20, half hour late and just reels them off.
I mean, picture me, closeted Adam. We're focused. We have our eye is on the prize. We're going to the 2010 games, Dave.
Yes.
We're going.
Yes.
There's no ifs, ands, ors, or buts about it. Like, we're going. We know we're on the team. We don't know who's going to get kicked off. It's not up to us, but we know that we are going. There's no team event, so it's like we have to go after individual gold. We don't have a choice. So it's like we're getting the gold in 2010. That's where our mindset is. But we probably need a triple axel. I don't think I've ever skated as long and as many hours as I ever had in that time that I skated with Nikolai. I was on the ice for like 6 or 7 hours, like 8 sessions, like crazy. Like any mother who was sitting up there would have been proud to call me her son. On the ice in some busted sweater from, like the, what is it? The coat factory? The
Burlington Coat Factory.
Yeah. That was a big hot spot for me as a child. Ripping from the seams, my sweater, and doing anything I could to just rotate a triple axel that wasn't a half turn cheated on 2 feet. And, then these kids come in, and one of them was Javi, rolls right in, has to do one lap, half of backspin, and can do a triple axel. I was furious. I was so mad, and I was so jealous. And I remember I also skated with Dice Murakami. Same thing. Twirl your ankles off the ice, get on, do a few laps, quad sow, triple axel. And I was just slaving away. And as like a 17 or 18-year-old, I was so jealous. I was so mad. I eventually had to get over it, because it was like, well, you have to do what you can do, but like, be impressed. Like, you're allowed to be impressed. You're allowed to like, let go of that, because it was like, it weighed me down for a really long time. But oh yeah, I was mad as hell.
How did you finally like know that you had the triple axel? Because I feel like we were on this journey with you for about a decade, where
if I wasn't still skating, we'd still be on it. Yeah.
Okay, but like, it was your best jump, I would say, the Olympic season. So how did you make this happen?
I think the biggest thing was that I think this is the thing about like coaches and people that you work with, that I think it helps to be with a really good coach. But I truly feel that if you are in the headspace where you believe everything this coach is telling you, and you truly trust in them, it doesn't matter who you're with, that you'll make it happen. That all good athletes are innately visual. They'll see what other people are doing. They'll innately soak up that content. They'll see what other people are doing. Some people soak it in differently. And I think for me, it was helpful to skate with someone like Nathan, who is just technically so much better than I ever was going to be. And I believed in what Rafael was telling me. I also felt like I didn't have a choice, because like, I didn't ever feel like, well, I could also go here and work with this person. It just felt like this was it. Like, I'm going to make it work here, or it's not going to work, and that's it. And I'm okay with that. And I think that mindset for me, I just like blindly trusted what he was telling me, and I would do all the exercises he said. And I think that's what like led to its like consistency in the end. I just like really went for it. And when I trusted in him, then I trusted in myself. It took that pressure away from me. I think those girls that work with Eteri, they know that they're going to just be the best. It doesn't matter. And they have to beat each other every single day. So if they can beat one of the girls in practice, they can beat anyone in the world. It's just, they believe that. I believed it. I believed in what I was doing. And I think that was like the biggest push for me in the bitter end.
So I had to ask about Rafael, not just about him manspreading on TV. God bless him. Like, I think,
bless, yeah.
He likes to put on a little bit of a performance for the media, for everyone. So when you won your national title, there was some kind of concern, not just in the kiss and cry, but in the media in the back. Rafael starts putting on this big performance about how Nathan, people don't appreciate his quads in the U.S. and we're throwing the sport back a million years. Was that genuine, or was he trying to get Nathan on the world team because Jason was petitioning? Like, what was going on there?
See, I don't know. I can tell you, like, from what was happening with me. I knew that, like, at that point, so I was bringing, like, I brought, Derek was there with me, right? Yeah. So I knew what Nathan was trying, and I knew that, like, Rafael's focus was with Nathan because, I mean, he's not dumb. Like, why would you focus on, like, you're almost 30. Like, we really got this.
You had the better shirt though that year. You had that Beatles shirt going on. It was like a real statement.
Truly. And if that shouldn't have been the pushover, I don't know what would have been, yes. Personally, I had a nicer shirt, I think, Rafael knew the way that I was skating. He knew the way I was training. And he also knew that, like, I knew that he needed to channel his energy into Nathan, and I needed to be okay with that. And that's why I wanted Derek to be there with me, so that I could have somebody channeling their 100% focus into me, and there would be no disconnect between Rafael being there for me, which I wanted and needed, but then I would also have somebody there to just, like, I could look into their eyes and be like, yeah, you're ready. And that was really important to me, and I sought that out, and it was a strategy to have Derek there with me, because not only is Derek one of my best friends in the entire world, I think he's an excellent coach. So I trusted if he gave me advice or said anything in those moments. And Rafael is a funny bird because he loves to train people. He loves to train people, and I remember when I first started working with Rafael, he told me his like pipe dream was that he would get to train me and Frank would take me to competitions, because Frank was still up in Lake Arrowhead. But Frank was like kind of moving from Lake Arrowhead back to whatever, and was Evan skating or was he not? So there was a lot up in the air where Frank was like, I don't really want to be a part of this, and you're fat. So it was like I had my own baggage to like literally lose.
Did he actually call you fat? Because I heard that he called your skating a marshmallow at one point in time.
Yeah, which is fat. Like
I thought he said it that there was no tension in your body. Was how it was.
That's exactly. He said if I touch you, it's going to be soft, and I was like, okay, don't touch. Yeah, you will be right. Like, please don't touch me. You know, I think sometimes that advice sounds really critical, but if you don't take it personally, it's really important and it's really helpful. And to like any skaters out there listening to this, I think that if you want to do it the right way, there's right ways to like be as lean as possible. And there are ways where you can have hot, like chocolate and cashews and burn your esophagus. You can always get another one, you know. It's fine.
How is Raf doing now? Like without having him yell at you? You seem to like a Russian yelling at you. So do you miss that in your life? Or are you...
I think... Oh, wait. So I'll go back. I'll answer your question. So, yeah. I'll come full circle to this one. So I think, first, yes, I do miss someone being hypercritical of me and yelling at me, because I think that it set me up for, if someone isn't hypercritical, I think that they're lying. Or someone gives me a compliment. I'm like, they're just not tough enough. And it's hard to like let that go when you live in that space for so long. But when we were at Nationals and I was with Derek and I was with Rafael, I remember Nathan skated before I did, and Rafael was with Nathan and he was with, you know, whatever. And he came back to me after Nathan had skated, and I heard the points and I knew how Nationals goes, and I knew what I had gotten the year before. I knew that like, if I had done what I was going to do, I would get points. Like I was still okay. I didn't know what he did. He could have done like, you know, a whole set of doubles and gotten those points, or I had no idea I did 4 quads. And Rafael comes back to me and he goes, you know, he focuses right into me. He goes, do exactly what you've been doing in practice. You're going to be fine. You can go out there, you're going to have your moment. You're going to have your moment. Do exactly what you've been doing and you're going to be fine. And like, when he said that, I knew that he was like, it's like now or never. You're either going to be like, you can be national champion right now, or you won't ever be national champion. But like, know that like, if you just do what you do, you're going to be fine. So I know from like the outside perspective, that I skated, the results come up, I'm in first place. Rafael hits me from behind, like whacks, which is normal when he was excited, like at home. We'd always do like a high five or like a pat on the back or something. So he hits me, he stands up, because he loves training and he also loves to like highlight people who he feels like deserve it. And he liked Derek. And he stands up and he said, before like the marks come up, he's like, I want Derek, please sit down. Derek, sit down. Because Derek was like, I'll stand up, you can sit here. And Rafael's like, no, Derek, you sit here, you be here, be right here, and I'm going to stand. So he stands, the marks come up, he hits me on the back, and he turns and he walks off. And he walks behind the camera, and he points to me and he goes like, I knew you could do it. You did it. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. And now look what happened. And he walks off. And then in his defense, maybe Nathan should have gotten more points for his quads. Like he did 4 of them and I fell on one. So like is he wrong? But I think he was also happy for the both of us in that moment. And I think, yes, he was probably fighting for both of his students at the same time.
It felt like the Oscars. You know, you deserved to win the year before, so they gave it to you in 2016. You know, it was going to happen one way or the other. So, allegedly.
Now, I really felt like I was going to have a moment. I won in Minneapolis in junior, and I had to wait all the way until they finally cycled all of the cities back to Minneapolis, and I was like, it's now, it's happening.
Yeah. Well, Twitter was a little bit shocked that you dated Yuna Kim. So I just want to know, like, when you asked her out, like, where did you take her on a date?
Okay. Well, like, here's the thing. She's this, like, we both showed up to Toronto. She was there, obviously, before I was. But, you know, one or two people that she's, like, very friendly with, but no real friends. And I show up, I also have no friends. And we kind of relied on each other because we were the only two people going to Grand Prix, and we became, like, super friendly. And I was, like, you know, enamored with her. Like, I was so enamored with, like, she's so beautiful. She's really kind, and she's cute, and she's funny. And I think that it was the first time that, like, she was talking to a boy. And I think it was just, like, the perfect moment for, like, the both of us. Because, like, I wasn't going to do anything because I was like, I'm a good guy. Like, it's just, like, that's me, you know? Like, I would never do that. I would, like, later learn that, like, no, you're just gay. But, like, in the moment, it just felt like a really safe place for us. So, like, when we would go, yeah, like, it was hard because Korean people would recognize her everywhere. And so we would go, like, take a taxi from, like, the cricket club down to, like, the waterfront, and we would sit and we would get lunch and we'd go to the waterfront and stuff, and then that was it. And it was, like, it was magical.
What did you talk to Yuna about? Like, were you watching K-pop together?
So not to, like, brag, but I knew a lot of really good K-pop before BTS was super popular.
From Angela Maxwell, who wanted to be in...
Not even Angela, from Yuna Kim, but okay. I wish Angela Maxwell had shared the wealth.
Yeah.
But so, like, we would learn a lot, and then I thought, so then a lot of Korean skaters are coming to the rink, so I started taking Korean lessons. So I was, like, taking Korean lessons with this girl who didn't speak any English. So I didn't speak any Korean, so we were taking them together, and we had this, her name was Erica. Like, that was her English name, but she was Korean, and there's a big, like, Korean population in Toronto. And we would learn lessons, and I would have to speak to this Korean girl that didn't speak English in Korean, and she would have to speak to me in English. So I took, like, Korean lessons for, like, months. I can read Korean. Can you believe?
No. So... why aren't you tweeting in Korean? It could have really
because I don't know what I'm saying.
Before you were famous, I used to judge, like, how many Instagram followers I had based on how many you had. Like, you were the benchmark. And then, like, all of a sudden you talked about Mike Pence and we lost. You know, so it would have helped your followers, your fan base. Anyway.
Truly. I know. I didn't have a good strategy.
You did not have a good strategy. Now, talking of strategy, Daisuke Takahashi, he hasn't won that Olympic gold. He's coming back in ice dance. How are you feeling about this?
Daisuke Takahashi is another one of those skaters that, in my eyes, can, like, do no wrong. I think ice dance is a totally different beast, but, like, I love to watch, like, you know that program that, like, Misha just choreographed for him, where it's, like, insane. The choreography is, like, crazy. It's so intense. I would go into cardiac arrest immediately if I ever tried it. But, like, you just see, like, Daisuke is so good. And, you know, if he wants to still compete and still, like, be on world stages, like, the level and the technique is just, like, rapidly being risen by, like, up and coming and young skaters. And if he's at a point in his life where he feels like, let me try ice dance, let Daisuke Takahashi. Who are we to stop Daisuke Takahashi?
Did you live with him in Hackensack back in the days? Okay.
Yeah, when I first, so, like, I was, like, like 17, fresh off my 6th place finish at the junior and level at nationals. Then all of a sudden living with Daisuke Takahashi and was like, go. Yeah, so.
You were living with your old Russian coach and you go to move with him. How is she doing? Like, does she send you Christmas cards? Like, what?
The last time I talked to her, I didn't talk to her for like 10 years. And I called her right before nationals in 2018. And she's superstitious and everything. So I called her right before nationals because I had heard she retired. So when I heard she retired, I sent her flowers to her house. I was just hoping her address was the same. So then I get this call from this number that I know by heart that I haven't like typed into a phone in like 10 years. And I answer it and we talked for like 20 minutes and we just like reminisced and we had a really great time. And I started to like, you know, get a little sentimental because I, you know, she already had seen what I was doing throughout the season and I was just getting ready for nationals. And I was like, I just want to, you know, thank you for, you know, helping me and getting me started in skating. And she cut me off right away. She was like, do not talk about this right now. I'm going to say goodbye. We're not allowed to talk until after everything is all over. So she hung up and we left it at that. And I haven't talked to her since.
Do you think that she would think that you were thin if she saw you today?
No.
Do you worry about running into her and having her make these
It's
judgments?
more like Raphael that like I'll go into the rink and and it's like he'll never say anything to me, but it'll be like, you know, his wife or Nadia, like the other assistants that he works with, they're like much bigger, and I'm like, yeah, you don't know the half of it.
So you are the self-proclaimed best spinner in the world. So you talked about Jason's spin. So what makes you a better spinner?
My politicking.
Okay.
Solely.
Now, you clearly worked on your spins a lot. And if you've ever watched the skating lesson, I was a little upset that Ashley would leave out the spins and the footwork in her program. Did you ever talk to Ashley about maybe doing like a real full on?
Yes, of course. But you know what? It's you know, when you are so successful doing what you've done, it's scary and hard to change in like what you think might be your last season. So I you know, I think that we had different, like, she's a world medalist. I'm not a world medalist. There's different like expectations for her. Like, she was a national champion multiple times over, and for me it was like, here we go, let's give everything. So like you know, I did everything I could, and I think that she was in this mindset of like staying, like making sure that she was ready for her moment within like the perimeters that she knew. So she worked on her spins more, but I worked on my spins like I was going, if I didn't, I'd like, you know, die.
So you talked about how she was a world medalist. So I think people in skating, it's very like rank oriented in the way that people interact with each other.
Completely. Yes. Yeah.
So when things change,
I've thrown a wrench into it.
Yeah, like you threw a major wrench. Like, you're the star on Stars on Ice. Did that change your relationship with people? Like,
the people that I've been close to, no.
Okay.
And the people that I've known for like a long time, no, because I think like the person that they were all seeing was the same person, only it was just like in so many different outlets that like maybe they weren't used to seeing me. So my interaction with like the people that I've known and competed against and all of that like has been the same. Like, I had a book event in Boston, and like Ross Minor went to it with his girlfriend. Like, Ross Minor is going to be one of my friends forever. Like, we've known each other, we've seen each other through so many like ups and downs. And I think like since being like out of skating, I've realized that like those friendships and the relationships that you make are like bonding for life. Like, I will still go to New York and try to get a hold of Christina Gao, who we used to train with in Toronto. Douglas Rosano has been one of my best friends forever. You know, Bianca Butler, Molly Oberstar, like those are the people I've known forever. They know who I am. And I think for the most part, I think truly my feeling was that like the people in skating were sort of like, I don't get it. And that was okay, because I was doing things that I liked, and the people that I knew and I was friends with were like genuinely proud and happy for me.
Now, for a long time, people almost thought of you as like Ashley's sidekick. So like, does that change things? Because you're like, I'm a Beyonce myself. I'm no Kelly Rowland. So
I think like for me and Ashley, we were always sort of like in it together. We were always such good friends, and we were always sort of like family. And at the end of the day, like nothing will really like change that. And like, I think the process of like, I don't think after talking with Meryl and going through it myself, the process of like leaving skating, no matter what you have on the other side. And I consider myself super lucky because I've always been like sort of the class clown behind the scenes. I was always making people laugh. I was always like the comedic relief for all my friends. And now sort of it's a job. And I felt really lucky, and I still do, that I can go and I can do that. And it was sort of, it felt like a seamless transition, but it wasn't. Leaving skating is super hard because it's just like this such a regimented schedule. It's your life lives in 4-year segments. You just have a schedule of how everything is going to happen. You have goals that are very clear. It's not arbitrary. It's almost set in stone that, you know, you're like 1 Senior B, 2 Senior Grand Prix, Grand Prix final with a star next to it. Nationals, I'm not going to 4 continents and worlds. Like, that was the schedule. And then all of a sudden it's gone, and it's been your schedule for 15 years. And it's a really hard thing to do. And like, I was really sad when Ashley moved to Boston, but I was really happy for her because I think it was an important move for her. Because I think that for Ashley, she needed to kind of get out of the space and the place that she was in, and she needed to like physically move on. And, like our friendship has like changed and grown with that, because it's different. Because like we would spend like every day together, and it's, I think like my other friendships were a little bit different because it was like I wasn't spending every day, but like with Ashley, we grew a lot together. We grew a lot in the last year.
You changed your hair together. You did the whole thing.
Everything. We took a nationals photo before nationals every year. We would go, it just, when you spend every day together, at first it feels like almost like you're breaking up, but like, you know that you're both like moving on to these big other things. And I'm so happy and proud of her for like what she's done and what she's doing in Boston. I think she's doing a great job. But like, I just saw her when I was in Boston, and we talked about it. It's really hard, and it's something that like people don't talk about. And I think like when I read about like Michael Phelps sharing his experience, it's like Michael Phelps is like, I'll never be Michael Phelps. The only way I have like all those gold medals is if I stole them. And if he shares that like almost depression that he goes in, that like when he left, I think it's important because I don't think any level, whether you're like Olympic, national, collegiate, whatever, when you leave that schedule, it's like you leave this whole part of you behind, and it's a lot harder than like people think it is.
Has it been as hard because you've been really busy? Like, has that helped the transition that you've kind of had a busy schedule? So
I don't know if it's helped, but it's distracted, because I've had like moments where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what is the point? Like, truly, if you're I'll speak to being a skater. Like, if you're a skater, nothing is going to be as hard as having to do a long program. You can go out there and be like, I hope I like can nail the set that I wrote. Like, you wrote something and you hope everyone's laughing at everything. Well, I know that like when I go out there and I start telling jokes, I can start to like in my mind gauge what people are laughing at, what they're not, what the audience is sort of into. Like, do I change the tone? Do I switch up a few things? It's super in the moment. And I feel like a real, like, I can drive that course. I know that, and I can come out like a success. But when you're a skater, it's like you're on the course, it's on autopilot, and if it's going well, it's going well, and if it's not, we'll see in 4 years. Like, nothing is that hard. And then on top of that, you feel awful, and you are physically exhausted. Like, nothing is as hard as, like, knowing that like you could even be like acting is I mean, it's a craft. To be able to be a good actor or a good actress. Unless it's a play, if you mess up, they'll just take another take. Let's do it again. We're like, get ready, set the scene again. There's no second take for anything. There's no second take for that play. There's no second take for, that program. It's just, it happens then, and there's that thrill, there's that anxiety, there's that such big ups and downs that like is not in anything else you do, and it feels like this huge like whoomp.
So when you see people skate, usually around nationals, everyone wants to get back on the ice. I know adult nationals happens, and I want to have another moment, and then I get over it. I get over it in about a week. Like, do you still have that? Like,
I want to like shoot myself for saying what I'm gonna say. A few months ago, in my retirement, I'm like, I don't know, like maybe I'll try to go to the Olympics again. Like I could, like, first of all, Jason Brown is skating like better than he ever has. And then Vincent and Nathan are world medalists. So I don't know where I hit my head, or like, maybe I took a stale vitamin that day. Like, I don't know what was going on. But like there is sort of that, like, I missed that schedule a lot. It was the schedule I missed. It wasn't the competing. Every time I competed, I can vividly remember before I went and competed at the Olympics thinking like, why do I do this to myself? This is so awful. I feel so sick, so nervous. And it's so liberating to not have to do that anymore. But I'll always miss it. But I'm so, like, I love the moments that I've had, but, like, I don't feel any sort of, like, wanting to go out and compete again. Like, there's not an ounce of any sort of desire.
So, great competitors, great athletes, there's kind of like a fine line between genius and insanity. So, I don't know if you've read about Hanyu going for this quad axel, but, like, is he going to do it? Has he officially lost it? Like, what is your... Are you as fascinated by this as everyone else?
Yeah, of course. I think, to be honest, I think he lost it when he tried to win a second gold medal at the Olympics. Like, why? If you had a gold medal, if you won the Olympics, would you ever go back?
No, because you could get Yunad, and, like, you could have to go to Russia, and, like, Sotnikova could be, like, hugging the judge, right?
Yes, yeah. You'd be like... Wait, I've seen that ponytail somewhere, and it wasn't at Sally's Beauty. I've also seen it there. Yeah. But I've also seen it on that one clip of you hugging a judge. But I think that, like, he lost it when he tried to win a second gold medal. So someone like that is obviously someone like Hanyu has this, like, vision of where they see themselves. And so if anybody could do it, it's him.
Do you think he's lit a fire in Nathan? Since Nathan lost the Olympics, it seems like he's changed. Like, Nathan is not the same bird. He is on another level.
I think he's motivated him, but I also I think in competing with Yuzuru in the last season, there was something really different about him than when I competed with him when we were younger. In a sense where he was like more focused, like, inward of what he was doing, and I could really feel that those being happy for Javi moments were like really genuine, and he was. And it takes I think even in the ups and downs when like Javi would beat him or whatever, he seemed like content, and the frustration was like inward. It wasn't out at someone else, which I think says volumes of the kind of competitor he is. And I think for Nathan, something changed when I think he was more confident in himself, being in school and training on his own. And, he can go in and he can work with Raphael for like 5 days, and all of a sudden if he has any problems with anything, he doesn't anymore. But I think it's because he's worked like a dog for his entire life. And I think that like he's in a place where He's obviously taking risks that he wants to. He seems to be like enjoying what he's doing. I mean, who wouldn't if you were winning every single competition? But he also seems to just be like way more mature. Like, I mean, that world skate looked almost like it was a freestyle session. Like, it looked like he was doing doubles all along the ice. He skated clean at Worlds, yes?
Yes. Yeah.
And at Nationals, I remember vividly the Nationals one where I was like, is he even doing like a program? Like, this is so nice, but like, is he even doing something? And maybe it wasn't the most emotional skate, but like, I was so moved because it was like what I was watching technically was so out of this world. Like,
well, he's coming out of his shell now with that footwork. That is
completely. That is hot shit. Like, that is next level. That's what it's going to take to be like Olympic champion, is to like push yourself out of that box. So he's doing that. Like, you can't be complicit. You can't sit still.
Now, what is your training regimen like now? I mean, retired life, are you getting up at 10? Like, but I imagine you talk a lot about comedy. Are you having like acting and comedy lessons? Like, you seem to have a sophisticated team around you. So like, what is going on here?
I do have a team around me that is very good, and they're very helpful. And I am like in this world now, and I have like people who are helping me, and I feel like for me to just kind of step into comedy, I can't just do that, because I think there is sort of this, like, people do know who I am. So I'm not like graced with that, like going into like open mic and like bombing. Like, if I bomb, I'll never be able to like go again, because like nobody will want to. I'm not like, beer can Sally walking in.
It'll get like, uploaded on YouTube by someone who will like find out that you're there.
The horror.
Yes.
So I want to be really prepared and want to step into things that I like know I can do. And I'm sort of in the period now where like everything I did post Olympics was sort of like a one-off thing. It was like, okay, we did the Body Issue. It's like kind of a one-off thing. Like, Dancing with the Stars, you're not going to go again. The juniors, it's impossible to schedule children for a television show. So it's like, it's a one-off thing. And the things that I'm stepping into now and the things that I've been working on are more like withstanding, and they have like more longevity to them, which I'm grateful for. And I think that I've just now, when I like watch things and I talk to people, and I'm able to kind of like take from their experiences what they've learned in regards to like performing and timing. And, I've learned a lot. Like when I started like doing the interviews, like I would go into an interview prepared. Like I would have 3 or 4 jokes that like I knew that I could throw in. And I remember that like I would have them, and I would I would weave them into a conversation if they felt appropriate. And then all of a sudden I could leave any interview and they're like, "You're so funny. You're on top of it." And I can be quick, and so whatever. So it's like it all works itself out. And then I met with someone, and they asked me like, what did I do when I get into interviews? Like, did I come up with that immediately, or did I have it prepared? And I was honest. I said I had it prepared, and they said, okay, your timing is way too slow. Like it seems too like thought out. So you need to work on that. And so it's kind of like that, where every time I've been doing something, I'll like reach out and ask to like how it is, how could I refine it, so that when I kind of like step out, and if I do like a stand-up thing, or if I have some sort of like job or whatever, I can step into it and not be like, oh, he's trying so hard, because I don't want to do that. So that's what I'm freaking doing.
How did you decide, I guess, when did you decide to answer a question with the interviewer's name? At the start of every answer, you would be like, well, Andrea, well, Dave.
My dad told me this story once where, like, he was in that there. Basically, the story goes where like they're going in for the final exam, and the only one question on the exam is, what's the name of the janitor that works at the school? And nobody knows the name of the janitor. And then the professor says, you should know everybody's name. It doesn't matter who they are or what they're doing. You should respect, and you should know every single person. Well, I also can't remember anybody's name. So I've gotten into the habit of, like, when I meet somebody, I'll repeat the name a few times so I don't forget it. Mm-hmm. Andrea Joyce, I mean, what a name. Andrea? Like, yeah. So I would repeat that for Ev.
All right. Well, the last question is, you have some announcement. I have another subscription service that I need to buy. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. What is this? Basically, you're being Wendy Williams for like 10, 15 minutes a day? What's happening?
Truly. And that's about it. So next year, there's this. So next year, there are these tons of different subscription services coming out. There's Disney Plus. HBO is having one, other than like HBO Go. And another one is Quibi, which are these short form episodes. And the head of Quibi is Jeffrey Katzenberg, and he's the former CEO of Disney. So before they had launched anything or done anything, he had $1 billion in funding behind him. And basically they were like, okay, we trust Jeffrey Katzenberg. The theory is that like Netflix and Hulu and things like that, that's the content you'll watch at night. Mm-hmm. That's the content you'll sit on the couch, you'll watch on your television. But Quibi is going to be the streaming service that you would watch during the day when you're getting ready, when you're on the subway, when you have 15 minutes at lunch. So they've sold shows to Disney. They've sold shows to Discovery. One of the ones I'm looking forward to is they've sold Steven Spielberg sold a horror series that's only available to watch from sundown to sunrise. So you have to watch it in the dark.
Creepy. Okay.
Very creepy. And then they also have these daily shows, and I sold a daily show with Hearst, and it's called like This Day in Useless Celebrity History. So we'll go through different things that have happened on any certain day, the day that like the episode launches. And no matter how important or irrelevant it is, I will treat it like I'm Andrea Joyce.
All right. Is there any story that you're dying to talk about?
You know, obviously there are a few. So like, you know, in our pilot episode of how we sold the show, like what we did was it was like the day Taylor Swift and Calvin Harris broke up. Okay. And so like in this pilot, we basically like go to a restaurant that they were seen at, and we like try to figure out and find clues and stuff. So it's like crazy, it's stupid, and it seems like right up my alley.
All right. So when does this actually launch?
April 2020.
April 2020. All right. Well,
yeah.
Adam, thank you so much for giving so much of your time and being on the skating lesson. Wish you all the best of luck.
Well, thank you. I'm going to be checking in and seeing how all of my Russian girls do, all of the Americans. This is now my outlet to like figuring out what's happening, because it's all right. There's a lot.
Tell everyone to hold an edge and look sexy then.
Yes, I will. You know, listen to your music.
All right.
There's nothing I love more than watching like a Jenny Kirk story of like what's happening at a competition, because I'm like, whoa.
Do you listen to her life advice? Like
some of it, but then I just found out Belle is overweight. So
Belle's overweight. She's living with Josh. He's cleaning all the time. There's a lot going on in Jenny's life.
There is. They thought someone sold the porch furniture. Like I am very fully invested into what's happening. She got rid of the futon in the guest bedroom. Like the paint was chipping off the desk. Like I know what's happening.
I really want her to make a YouTube channel about it, but
she absolutely should.
I know, but she doesn't seem to like get the big picture, and she's not making aprons anymore, and that's upsetting to me.
I know, and she sold the mannequin, like I know from the last move, and like in the last move, like the whole thing
she
flooded
moves a lot.
It.
Like they might even
she
move
does.
Again.
She's like me with coaches, like everywhere, every minute, a new place, new state. She's always going to Walmart, picking up a craft. Like
she likes the dollar store lately. Like I don't even know who we're dealing with. So there's a lot happening in Jenny's life. But and apparently now she's like advising skaters, and we can't even talk about who they are. So it like kills me a little bit. But
that would kill me too. But I watch from the outside, and I'm like, you know, I get Belle on a diet and enjoy your intuitive eating. Like do it.
I mean, do you want to put gummy bears in your salad? Like.
I don't know. I didn't think of it until I watched that.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye now.